everybody. I'm Anita Finley, and I'm going to do I was going to say stupendous interview because I have a stupendous person who is the author of Think Yourself Young, Laugh Yourself to Life. And this is, I was going to say Irma Bombeck, we were just talking about her. This is Lea Hope Becker. Lea Hope Becker is really, well, she's an author, but she's a comedian. She's a lot of things. She's also a professional. She's a tax accountant. I mean, she's a lot of things. But today we're going to talk about her writing ability, how funny she is, but you know, Lea, even though you're funny, you speak so much truth, you know, and I always get these little pearls from your writing. So here we go, kiddo. Here we are. Think yourself young. Do you think yourself young, Lea?
Well, yesterday I thought myself young. We had a little storm down here, or up here, I should say. You're in Boca, I'm in West Palm. Yeah. And the driveway was filled with litter. So I went out and I thought I was 42 years old. So I started raking. And I got the driveway. It's a long driveway too. I got it very, very clean. But as I finished and I got all the leaves in a bag and the garbage bag, and I did that, I went back in the house and I didn't feel like 42 anymore. So I don't know, what's the antidote?
No, of course you do though, because your writing says it all. And I just, I listened to a great interview by Ken Dykewald. Ken Dykewald is probably Mr. Longevity. He wrote Age Power. He's really been the founder of so many things. And he was talking about older adults. You know, it used to be older adults, and now it's a lot of us, and we don't feel older. And a lot of us are where they said, oh, people are going to live to be 75. Yeah, they're living to be 95 and 100. So he said, well, everybody's got to take on something, global warming, something. You've got to make every day important. And when people like you write books, that's what we're talking about, because you do affect a lot of people when they read your books, Lea, really.
Thank you.
And this is unique. You've done a lot. You've done so many books, and I could read them and tell everybody what they were. Like the first one was, I promise to keep quiet after I'm dead, maybe. I promise to stay married this time. Children, I'm home. My name's not Robbie anymore. The husband who kept his wife fat. But this one is a poetry. It's funny, but it is done in rhyme. And I ask you now, what made you do that?
Well, it's been a couple of years since I published. And well, I'm in a writers group, as you know, and every time I try to write something serious, and I try to write serious. I have serious poetry. In fact, there is a serious poem that we put in the back. You may have noticed it, but they would say, well, it's good, but we want your humor. So I kept thinking to myself, why fight it if that's what is needed? Do the humor. So I do the humor.
And all your books have been humorous, but for you now to become a poet is interesting. Was that hard to make things rhyme?
No, I've been doing that for years. I just never published. A couple of the earlier books did have some poems in there. The first book, I know has some, I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but the first book has some poems, and I know the Children I'm Home book has some poems. But I've been doing it for years. I started when I was 10 years old.
So that comes easy for you then to make things rhyme, and it was funny, but I mean, I have to tell you, some of some of the books, I mean, some of the chapters, I'd say, were very meaningful. It was very, you know, I mean, it's funny. It's funny, the oops, hair in the sink. You know, that I I have a habit now, actually, of clearing my sink drain because I once had to get a plumber, and the plumber got all this, I'll use the word crap, out of there, mostly hair.
Yes,
So,
I know where you're going.
so really, you see, you take real life experiences, turn them into something that people can laugh about and say, oh yeah, a lot of aha moments. So Lea,
Yes,
I have to say that you know, and this book actually is, this book is easy to put in your purse. It's very lightweight. You can
yeah.
throw it in there. And the thing that I liked the way you did this is you had somebody asking questions. I mean, I guess it was a make-believe person, Marlene. And
Well,
that was,
actually, it's a person I know,
oh, okay.
but
But
and I try to
it was
use
funny.
the character.
Right.
But but the conversations that you're referring to really go something like that. I get it's there's no verbatim in there. I just made it up, but there is somebody like that.
Oh yeah, well that was cute before because you kind of set up the chapter.
Right. I thought that it might be a good idea not to have poem after poem after poem without some buffer in there.
Right. That, well, it was a very clever thing to do. And then the chapter of computer dating for the over 55 women, that was hysterical.
That was my favorite, by the way.
Oh, well, it was
And
pretty funny.
that was a true story.
Oh, really?
It was true. I tell you, I didn't even have to exaggerate. A lot of the stuff you have to exaggerate, not that one.
Do you have the book in front of you?
Did I what?
Do you have the book in front of you?
No, it's in back of me.
Okay, go find it because I wanted you to read a little bit from it. You know, I think that authors should read a little bit of what they write because it's their conversation. So if you want to go to that one, which is page 68, the computer dating for the over 55 women, it's not very much. You could read some of it because it's pretty funny. And it's, you said it's real. Okay.
Yeah. Should I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. When new technology first came to my house, with me being single and seeking a spouse, I tried out a company promising men who would contact me soon. And what would come then? I submitted some photos. I put on some weight, but I really desired a prince for a date. One man who had seen me and thought I was cute called me up very shortly, seemed nice, not a brute. He told me he'd worked a small farm since retired, loved animals and plants, and for me was all fired. The man asked if casual dress was okay. I answered, no problem, I like it that way. We met at a restaurant outside the door and began with a handshake, too soon to have more. The hostess directed us right to a table. He seemed quite well built and physically able. However, the first conversation was stilted. He gazed at the tablecloth, eyes downward tilted. His casual dress was designed to look poor. His blue jeans were ragged and smelled of manure.
Oh,
I'd gone to the beauty salon, hair and nails done. The outfit I'd chosen was my number one. The phone conversation had seemed so delightful, but meeting the guy turned out dreadful and frightful. I'm not against farming or casual dress, and shyness is not such a problem, I guess. But wasn't I worth wearing freshly washed jeans? We weren't two youngsters, still naive in our teens. He phoned me again on the next business day. For a second date with him, my thought was, no way. Is there anything wrong? Won't you give us a try? Now, what could I answer this casually dressed guy?
Yeah.
I told him I'd enjoyed our restaurant date, but to see him again, it was really too late. I'd gotten involved with an old friend I knew and getting engaged soon, though it wasn't true.
Right.
I'd never been brave and was in quite a quandary on how to advise a man he should do laundry, or that simple eye contact would have been really nice, that dating technology should have come with advice.
Right. And so Marlene says to you, this has to be a true story. You couldn't make it up. What'd you say?
I said, oh, well, I exaggerated a little. The brown spots on his blue jeans must have been manure from his farm, but I'm not certain I could smell the jeans. It wouldn't have been appropriate to get that close to his pants on a first date.
Yeah, so you could, I think our listeners could and our viewers could get the way most of those chapters are like this. Lea Hope Becker picks up something and then she makes a funny thing of it, but I'll bet there have been people out on these computer dates who've experienced things like that for other things, who knows what else. But was that your last date from a computer?
That was my last computer date. And I'm trying to remember if I dated again before. Yeah, I must have dated again because I was out there. But eventually, I wrote a letter to a high school friend of mine who became my husband. So I'd have to go back in my diaries to pick up the exact time frame.
Well, and let's just say I didn't count before, but how many separate little articles were there or poems? How many?
I think there were over 60.
Right. Over 60.
Yeah.
Well, and did this come easy for you when you were writing this compared to your other books?
I had a publisher this time instead of a critique group, although the critique group had heard some of the poems. But the publisher actually read the book, the proposed book, very thoroughly and wanted it to be appropriate and entertaining and not really, I hate to use the word offensive because sometimes I like to be offensive, but she didn't want it to be really controversial. She wanted to be a happy book. Mm-hmm. And that was very helpful for me.
Yeah, and you did that.
Yeah, so we went to Supreme Publishing and I was very happy with the result. Yeah,
you should be. It is great. And of course, we can't neglect telling everyone, here's the cover of the book, that you have the greatest illustrator that any woman could have. And who is that?
Well, right now, every time we go through another project, I wonder if there's going to be another one.
But it was cute how you tell me when you ask him, or you ask him to do it, he first wants to I don't think he even reads the book first, does he?
Actually, he does not want to read the book. He wants to know the titles. In this particular case, he wanted to know the titles of the series. And my publisher had me have each series had to have at least 5 poems. Some of them have 7, 8. He only wanted to look at the titles, and that's where he came up with the drawings. And the only one I made a change to, I was very happy with him, was the one about the aging author's lament, because originally he had a man with a beard and didn't have the woman. That's
I show that to everybody now, right?
Yeah, okay. So he did not have the woman. And I said to him, yeah, but I'm the author, and this is a book about from a woman's point of view. And I actually came up with the idea a sort of a chiding, nagging wife standing behind the author. And I think he was happy with that change.
Right,
I think it was successful.
right. So he not only did the cover, of course, a little bit on the back, but
Oh,
then
that's
he
part
did,
of one of the drawings, yeah.
right, but then he did inside wherever he could. You know, this is
Yeah.
like the pain of adapting to change, which is very cute. No, he's quite good. You're very lucky to have him because it is makes him a part of what you're doing, actually.
Yeah.
You're cute. Yeah, that's so cute about the little angel. I mean, the little girl at the top with her, and then you. I love that. So when you finish your books, do you learn anything?
Well, every time I finish a book, there's more to know about marketing. And I always think, what am I going to do for an encore?
Right.
Am I going to try, I've written some serious
Yeah.
material, which I have not published. In fact,
Ah.
I've got files all over my office. And eventually I usually turn back to the humor because that's what people seem to want.
Well, it's unique. A lot of people can write very well, but not everyone can put it into smiles. You're good at that.
Thank you.
You know, even the book, which was serious in a way, the one that my name's not Robbie anymore, that was way ahead of its time, actually, you know that.
Yes.
And I think I asked you how you came up with that at the time, and I don't remember what you said, why you thought about that.
I just wanted to do something a little outrageous. And at that time, it was a little outrageous.
Right.
And actually, I've entertained the idea of doing a sequel to that book.
Uh-huh.
And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because now you have all these people, a lot of the conservatives not wanting the kid to play if it's a trans. If it's a trans man, they don't want him to play in a woman's game.
I think you're
on.
talking about the youth, the kids
Yes.
under 18.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very controversial right now. I've done some research on that.
Ah,
It's not funny, and I don't know how it could be funny,
no.
but I like to do research. That's something I always do.
Well, the Rob wasn't funny, but it was the family around him.
Well,
You know,
they were
that's-
funny. Actually, it was the parents were funny
Yes.
because you had the juxtaposition of a rather moderate, sensitive woman married to a very conservative man. And there's a lot of humor in there, a lot of humor.
Yes.
I once tried to write a story called how liberals and conservatives can get a grip. And the whole idea was they should shake hands. And I started writing, now this was years ago. And today I don't know, things keep evolving. Things keep evolving.
I'm sure. Yeah, you could, that sounds like a making of a book, actually. The conservative and the liberal together and their comments to each other.
Well, that is part of a draft of a book. I wrote the whole book and it's on a shelf.
Ah.
And parts of it are funny and parts of it are need work.
Yeah.
So it's there. I have a copy of it. And the problem is in this world, this modern world, you leave a book on a shelf for 5 years and it's a whole new ballgame.
Yep, yeah, that's true. Why don't you take a moment and tell people what you do when you're not writing. That's
Uh,
another whole world.
well, of course, as a person ages, you want to keep your health. So that's part of your day is, the proper things that medical science has provided. And I think we're very lucky because 100 years ago, people didn't have what we have today.
Talk about your profession.
Well, I'm still doing tax returns. I'm kind of tapering down. There's that takes up a certain amount of my time, but I did switch when we had the COVID-19 starting. I booked a flight to another city where I did one-on-one interviews, in-person interviews, and did the tax work, and then flew home. So I canceled that trip because it wasn't safe. And then I found out that everybody was willing to work remotely. And I'm not talking about being on Zoom or FaceTime or anything like that, but with modern technology and the iPhones and that other company, people take pictures of their documents and send them to me. So you could have a W-2 or a longer document, take a picture of it on the modern phones have great cameras, and I get it. And it could come through the messages, it could come through an attachment, and I have the document. From my end, I print everything. I'm on the telephone, but I still am able to do these people's returns. But I'm kind of tapering down.
Mm-hmm. But the people who you work with, you've been working with them for a long time, so you know them pretty well.
Oh, yeah. Some of my clients I've been working with for more than 40 years. Oh my God, that really dates me. That dates me for sure.
Do you give each one of them a book?
I don't. I gave some of them a book. Some of them want to pay.
Yeah.
They feel guilty. Oh, you did so much work. I want to pay for it. And there are some people that were really in a quandary the last year plus. And I was happy to send them books.
But I was thinking, so they know you in a different way.
They've always known me in a different way.
Right. Some of them, they probably open their mouth and say, my gosh, what is she like? Oh, heavens, I didn't know that part about her.
Well, I used to boast that I could make doing tax preparation fun. But every time they changed the tax law, it became a real project.
Mm-hmm. Lea, let me go back. I haven't really talked about your family. I don't think your mother and father. Have they been gone a long time?
My father died in 1962. My mother died in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a brother who was in a fatal auto accident in 1978. So that was my immediate family.
You didn't have brothers, so you had no other siblings?
No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Not actually. But recently I found out I got a cousin through DNA ancestry, and I have to send in a DNA sample, but it looks like he's going to be a half, whatever you call a half first cousin. It looks like it. There's a lot of people wanting to explore their parentage today.
Yeah, then that sounds like a funny book, as you're saying that.
Well, it's not funny yet. I think Robert Aldous said in one of his movies, but comedians have always said that, but he had a way of saying it. If it bends, it's funny. If it breaks, it's not funny. But what he was really, that's in the movie, it's one of his movies, one of his Woody Allen movies. But what he's really saying is that comedy is tragedy that's been completed in a way, or that you've taken the, it's progressed. So you can make, but you can't really make I don't know how to do it. You can't really make comedy out of really bad things that are happening currently.
Well, you can see that on Saturday Night Live because they're pretty funny generally, but with a few last time and a few times, they can't be funny on certain things. They just can't.
Yeah, and I go to bed before they come on, so I haven't caught them for a while.
Okay. The other thing, though, that I'd like to talk to you about is you've been very active in writers' groups. Do you suggest people who want to write books, is that important for them?
What's very important for new writers is get some editing help. And even if you're wonderful at grammar and sentence structure and natural talent, I did my very first book, almost had zero editing. And that's why I made it a short book. And then I got into the writers. And I think it's very valuable, probably essential. It could be a critique book. You can hire an editor. Different editors charge differently. And by the way, for my Robbie, I call it my Robbie book. My name's not Robbie anymore. I hired a friend of mine who was well-versed in, I would say, the gay and the transgender area. Mm-hmm. Where I had done some research, but I needed outside help. So I hired that, but I call that content editing. That wasn't layout, it wasn't grammatical, right. It was content editing. But yes, I believe in editing.
And have you ever helped people? Have people given you their books and have you gone through it?
Nobody's ever hired me to edit a book. They've asked me what I thought of this or that, but no, I have not.
Think you're too busy. They probably feel you're too busy, and that takes quite a while.
I think editing requires a person being able to detach themselves from a lot of bias and just look at the appeal of a book. But editors are very compartmentalized. They're specialized. It's almost as specialized as the medical profession, I understand.
Mm-hmm. So in your mind with your books, they are very different. And you said now you have some in your mind that you're thinking of doing. What takes you over the top? What makes you say, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm going to do this. Do you ask
I just start writing. And I'm a very fast typist, which is an advantage. Some people are slow typists. I learned that as a young secretary. So I will write very, very quickly and then maybe turn out 6 pages in half an hour. And then I'll look at it and read it. And I think at that stage, I can do my own editing and it just doesn't hold together because my mind doesn't work that way. I have brain channels that go in different directions. That's why I need the critique book group, because they keep me from, I could go from California to New York and I didn't know I made the detour. They help. It is really essential for someone like me.
2 minutes.
I'd love to look into your brain and see how it works. It must be. Do you sleep at night easily? Do you have trouble sleeping?
Well, I have a little system. When I was having trouble sleeping, and it'll come and go, I would read particle physics. And I don't understand particle physics, but it worked. In 2 minutes, I was asleep. So I haven't done that for a while. I still have all the books, but now I read a book I'm interested in. And something has happened to me. I used to be able to read, let's say, 30 pages a night at bedtime. I'm down to about 4 pages a night.
Good night. That's great.
Did
Well,
that
it's been
take 2
wonderful.
minutes?
Yeah, it's been wonderful, Leah. Lea Hope Becker. Her book is Think Yourself Young, Laugh Yourself to Life, collected poems. I did a review. If you get the April issue, you'll see it. I love her book. I love
Are you
everything she
kidding?
does.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It's wonderful. But let me ask
Thank
you,
you.
how should, besides Amazon, is that where they should go to buy it?
It can be ordered through any bookseller. It's on the
Okay.
computer. All the booksellers, like Barnes and Noble or the independent books, they can all go
Good.
on the computer. Some small bookstores might not want to order the book
Yeah.
because they don't want to spend the time. You know, they have to make a living, and if they
Right,
make
right.
something on bestsellers, that's the way it is. But Amazon
Well,
is there.
With Mom's Day and Dad's Day coming, it's a great book. Get it because it's small, it's funny, and they're not going to return it. Thank you, Leah. We'll catch up with you again.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. That was Lea Hope Becker and her great book, Think Yourself Young, Laugh Yourself to Life. Okay, we'll be back another time.